Hello everyone, it's Ryan back again to bring you another video. In today's video we are going to be feeding the marine fish system, which is behind me. So without further ado, let's get into it and let's feed them. So because we have so many tanks obviously to feed, it makes it way easier for us just to use one of these squirty bottles. And in this, every single day as a staple, we will thaw out some brine shrimp, usually just standard brine shrimp or brine shrimp and garlic, brine shrimp and spirulina. We like to try and mix it up as much as possible because the main thing is with fish health, we believe, is the diet. If you give a fish a nice, healthy, mixed, varied diet, then the fish are going to do really, really well also. Brine shrimp's the main one. Mysis shrimp, thawed out mysis shrimp, it can be either with garlic extract or not garlic extract. We sometimes throw in copepods, red plankton, which is Calanus species, and then we also do a flake food as well in here. So like anything such as marine, Mysis RS flake food, that works extremely well, really good product. Or First Bite's marine flake as well, or even algae flake. You know, we've got a number of tangs in this system and we've got a few herbivores as well, so you really want to make sure that they're getting plenty of greens in the diet. So sprinkle of algae flakes as well works a treat. Put it all in here, mix it all up. Now with the frozen, I will say that we do rinse our frozen food. So we place the frozen, that could be in another video actually, I might show you guys in another video. So we place all of our frozen food into a little cup, fill it with RO water, let it defrost for about 10-15 minutes. We'll do some other tasks whilst it's just defrosting. Come back, we'll strain all of that food then into a really fine mesh net. Then put it into a proper funnel, just in the top of this bottle here. Decant all of the frozen food into the funnel. Now obviously it pretty much all sticks in the funnel, so then we go to the RO tub and then we trickle bits of RO down the funnel. All of the food goes into the bottle and then we just fill up to about 3 quarts with RO water. That means then the food is nicely rinsed. We're not getting loads of particulates coming off. Now yes, particulates coming off the frozen food, in essence, in theory, if you have a reef aquarium, will feed your corals, so yes, that is true. But with a fish only system like what we have with some just fake corals, we're not fussed about the particulates. So rinsing the frozen food for us in this particular situation works extremely well. And it just means that phosphates are just that a little bit lower because we're not putting in absolutely tons of tiny particles that the fish are not going to eat, and it just goes into the sump and into the filtration. That's the food all sorted. So we'll go ahead and feed. Now, admittedly, I have already put some into the invert system. The invert system is the bottom row. So I'll just show you. Everything goes crazy for the food. I think the great thing is because it's a mixture of food, the mysis, the brine shrimp, the flakes, the red plankton, the calanus, the copepods, everything, each fish can choose if there's a particular food that it likes, if there's a particular food that it's not so fond of. They have plenty of time and plenty of option to pick out what they like. So it just means really nice, healthy, fat fish. We like fat fish. Now all the inverts get this, the hermit crabs, the shrimps. Obviously we've got things like mandarins in the invert system as well, just because they're very easily outcompeted. So we like to keep the mandarins in the invert system rather than putting them in with mixed fish tanks. And every single mandarin they just nail the food. Check out this guy. And you can see all that food around him. Now, you could say, yes, that's overfeeding. However, we've got quite a few conches, strawberry lip conches in here, and as soon as they start to smell the food, which they have done because all of a sudden they're starting to become really active, they will soon make their way over to that patch and scoff as much food as possible. We've got the red-legged hermit crabs there having a bit of a scuffle. Great little characters on these. And then of course the Kalina shrimps. They're always one of the first things to the food, the shrimps are. They just smell it out so quickly. So moving on to the things that we haven't fed. So it's amazing, these fish now have been with us for a few weeks. Well, a number of weeks actually, more like a couple of months. We've had these before COVID, lockdown. And so, yeah, we've been in lockdown now for a couple of months. Must be, it feels like it anyway. And so, let's feed the fish. This yellow tang is so beautiful. Nice, chunky, really healthy, perfect specimen. And what we do, as you can see, I just put in little bits of food. Don't put tons in, because otherwise it'll just go with the flow of the spray bar. It'll fill the aquarium and half of it will end up going down the strainer into the filtration. So the main thing, and this is a key point actually for you guys at home as well, you know, feeding your fish at home, don't put in shed loads of food in one go, because otherwise you watch that food, I guarantee so much of it will go down the weir. If you've got a sump system, or into your external filter, if you've got an external filter, so much of it will go down there, and once it goes in there, obviously it's going to go into your Clarity, your X filter, your filter sock, whatever you've got as your mechanical filtration, your primary mechanical filtration. And if it goes into a filter sock, it'll just sit in there and it'll rot down, and it's just no good for anyone. So just small amounts of food. Let them eat all that, and then what we tend to do is come back to them. Now you can see that this yellow tang is still swimming around, hanging around. That's kind of an indication to me that he's eaten everything that he can, but he's still after a little bit more. However, we'll keep him waiting just a little bit longer, just so we can be absolutely certain that he's eaten everything. So this one's the hawkfish and the spotted cardinal aquarium. Oh, and there's a convict blenny in there as well. That's just the long black eel-like fish at the bottom. And there's also a sulphur goby in the back. Okay, so let them eat that. On to the next tank. We've got a really nice Singapore angelfish, and we've got a group of Indian Ocean firefish. And then we've got a couple of scooter blennies in here as well. Now we do like to put quite a bit of food in this tank because of the scooter blennies. You can see there's one just on the bottom panel there. And again, because there's quite a few fish in here at the moment, we just want to make sure that those scooter blennies get plenty of food, because they are a little bit slower feeders. They never come to the food like these Singapore angelfish or the firefish do. They tend to just sit on the bottom and wait for the food to come to them, so you've really got to make sure that they get plenty of food. Photobombed by the Singapore angelfish there. There we go, you just see the scooter blenny take a huge piece of brine shrimp there. But this is the thing, it shows you actually how slow they are to feed compared to the firefish and the Singapore angelfish that literally just whiz round and just every couple of seconds are picking off bits of food. The scooter blenny could be 5, 10, 15 seconds before it even decides to take the piece of food, so much slower feeders. So we always do anything with scooter blennies in the aquarium, we do tend to put that little bit more food in. And the great thing is the way that we've designed these tanks with the spray bar, it actually just circulates the food around anyway. And we find that not too much goes down the strainers, which is really handy. Next tank we've got zebra dartfish, really unusual fish. Absolutely gorgeous colours in them though. Plasma clownfish, Midas blenny. Sea fighter wrasse, which is the red one that's shooting around. Now again, quite a bit of food in here because there's some pink scooter blennies in this tank. And as you can see, these fish go absolutely crazy. See a pink scooter blenny there, and there's the other one. As I say, the sea fighter wrasse is the one in the back, the half red, half white. And there's also a algae blenny just in the front of the frame here, this silver grey looking fish called algae blenny because they're fantastic at just going around nipping any bits of algae off the rockwork. Now you can see how much food I put in and how quickly it's disappearing. It does not take long for these guys to get through it at all. So they're the two aquariums that we put in a little bit more food than usual just to make sure that the scooter blennies get plenty of food. And you can see already that food's disappearing quickly. Next tank, we've got the black torpedo or scissor-tail dartfish, a couple of different common names. We've got the pair of flasher wrasse, pair of common clownfish, and a purple firefish. Put the food in. Now with these, again, because there's no gobies or anything like that in here that are slower feeders, we'll just go back to the smaller feed-ins. Put a little bit in, let them eat that up, and then we come back in about 5-10 minutes time. What is fantastic is the tank above them. There is a beautiful, beautiful convict tang, and he knows that it's feeding time. He does this whenever he knows it's feeding time. He's never like this usually for the rest of the day. He's completely calm, completely collected. So he's not stressed out, don't worry. He only does this during feeding time, and it's just basically his way of saying, come on, get the food in for me. As soon as I put this food in, he is going to go nuts. So there's also a coral beauty in this aquarium, and then a pink skunk clownfish. And you can see that convict tang is whizzing around, just picking off all of the bits of mysis, flake food, brine shrimp, etc. like a Hoover. I think if I was to name fish, which we don't really name fish here, but if we were to name fish, I think this would definitely have to be called Dyson after the Hoovers. And then next tank along, we've got powder blue tang, pair of pink skunk clownfish, and then there's also a angelfish in here. Really nice size, powder blue tang, so healthy, really nice and chunky. The angelfish, I really can't remember off the top of my head, and I've misplaced the label, apologise for that. The name will come back to me at some point, I'm sure. The pink skunk clownfish are not too fond of the camera. There we go, you can see them there. A lot of the fish tend to go for the food a lot quicker than this. Well, to be fair, they are going for it really quickly anyway, but some fish, some particular species of fish, just a little bit slower to the food just because of the camera. It's like that pair of pink skunk clownfish then. As soon as I was going up near the aquarium, they were kind of hovering more over to the opposite end of the aquarium, which is fair enough. But now I've moved on, they're right in the action. Next tank, we've got black rice clownfish pair, another sea fighter wrasse, and a blue ring angelfish. Blue ring angelfish obviously is juvenile coloration at the moment. It'll change completely as it ages. Stunning fish though. And if you've never seen the adult versions, check them out, Google them. They're absolutely beautiful fish. Next tank, we've got Bangai cardinals. These have really put on some good weight during lockdown. They enjoyed the frozen food more so than the flake, but obviously the flake's mixed in there, and we are finding that a couple are starting to go for the flake food now. I think that's the thing with marine fish. Obviously a lot of, or any fish for that matter, even wild tropical fish, they're not used to dried foods. A lot of prepared foods they're not used to. And so the best thing to do is just mix a little bit in with the food that they are eating. Obviously, you want to make sure that that fish is remaining healthy and just eating anything. As long as it eats something, that's the main thing, to keep its strength up, to keep its immune system up, and to keep it happy and healthy. And then once you know that it's eating something and it's got good weight on it, then you can start introducing little bits of flake food or pellet food or something else. And most of the time you'll find that it might take a few days, maybe even a week or two, but that fish most of the time will start to take little bits of it, and once it does, it realizes it's another food source, and then most of the time you can wean them onto dry foods very easily from there. Which is actually one of the reasons why we feed a lot of flake food to the marine fish and invertebrates as well, just because when we first import the fish and they go into the quarantine systems, we find that really all of them turn their noses up at dry foods. It's just one of those things that we tend to find. Flake food, pellet foods, they just tend not to go for it that well. So we tend to start feeding them with the brine shrimp and the mysis shrimp. Obviously, if they're smaller fish, copepods work really well in the red plankton. That's our staple diet here. And then once they've gone through quarantine, we bring them out into the fish system, and that's where we then start sprinkling little bits of flake food into the bottle, because the filtration on the fish system can handle it if they're not too happy with the flake food. And then the last tank, we have threadfin butterfly fish, gorgeous specimen, and then we have a pair of gladiator clownfish. Believe it or not, both of these were orange when we picked them up about 2.5, 3 months ago now, and one of them's turned black with white with an orange face, and then the other obviously is orange and white, so it's quite an interesting pair actually. These have at least doubled in size. Really, really nice. And then there's another sea fighter wrasse in here as well. Apologies about the footage. If it's a little bit shaky at times, it's just really difficult holding the camera and feeding the fish and trying not to lose my balance at the same time. Threadfin butterfly fish, unfortunately, is not deemed reef safe. A lot of the butterfly fish species are not reef safe. So if you're watching this video and thinking, oh wow, that's a gorgeous fish, I've got to have that in my tank, please be very careful. We do not recommend this fella with corals at all. Obviously, some people might keep them with corals and they might be absolutely fine, they might be model citizens, but as a general rule, unfortunately, they do tend to nip and eat many different coral species, so really it's a fish that's better suited to the fish-only system. Okay, so what we'll do now is just go around and we'll do that process again and feed them a little bit more. I won't do that on camera now just because I realise that it is quite a long video already. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we do with the marine fish system and invert system. That's how we feed. They get, I would probably say, well, we use the slices, so it's difficult to say for sure, but we feed quite a number of cubes a day. If it was in cube term, you know, the trays that we sell. And we feed anywhere from 3 to 4 times a day. We find this just keeps everyone happy and healthy. Again, feeding your fish, everyone has a different opinion about the subject matter. We actually recommend once a day or twice a day, every day. The reason why we feed personally here in the shop 3 or 4 times a day, every single day, is just because we have so many fish and we've just got to ensure that each fish gets plenty of food. Fish like the scooter blennies, for example, obviously much slower fish to realise that the food's in their aquarium and to actually start feeding. So if we feed a few times a day, lightly, they're more likely to pick up a few pieces of brine shrimp mysis every time we feed. And so if they feed on a few pieces of mysis each time we feed, and that's 3 or 4 times throughout the day, that's just going to make sure that they're getting plenty of food and will keep the weight on and keep them nice and healthy and chunky. You don't have to feed this often at home. Obviously the main thing is to make sure that the filtration can handle whatever food that you're putting in, and obviously the fish bioload. The main thing is that if you have a really good filtration system which keeps your phosphates and nitrates in check and stops them from going out of control, then obviously you can feed more food. With the fish system, we grow Cheeto in the sump, and then we also dose little bits of Red Sea's NO3PO4, and this in turn keeps the algae, it keeps algae down because it keeps phosphates and nitrates in check. That allows us to feed quite heavily, and therefore keeps the fish nice and healthy and nice and chunky. So I think I'm going to wrap up the video there. If there's any questions about how we feed our marine fish and invertebrates, if you're not quite sure on any parts of the video where I was explaining things, do drop a comment down below and I'll be happy to answer. If there's any fish that you'd like to purchase, if you are in the local area to us and you need any essentials, if you want delivery, if you want to come to the shop and purchase the fish, there's no entry into the shop yet, there's no access into the shop yet, but we are open and you can just drop us a private message. We can sort out payment details, work out a day that's best for you, and then if you just arrive, say either the same day or the next day, we can catch your fish out and go from there. As always guys, if you like the video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, it really helps the channel grow. Feel free to subscribe to the channel also if you like these kind of videos and you want to see more of them. Thanks for watching everyone, I'll catch you in the next one.